So for this 12 months of soap gift set that we've been building together with you, hi, I actually made, as you might expect, the last bar, so the December bar last. And I had all of the rest of them made and laid out. And based on the way that they had all gone down, I called Mr. Soap and Clay in to help me figure out the design for the December bar with everything else that's there. And he saw this one, the April bar that we are doing today, and he went, well, that one's my favorite first, and then got to the task of, designing the December bar with me. And that was cool. And I will tell you why this one was his favorite in just a moment. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 157 of 365 days of soap, year 2. And today we are making the 4th bar in our 12 months of soap line for the gift sets, and that's January, February, March, April. Today we are doing April. And as I said before, Mr. Soap and Clay loved this bar the most out of everything that I had made up to that point. Well, so 11 bars in total he saw. And the reason for it is because he thinks that the pour itself looks like the Rolling Stone lips. And he's not wrong. But that's not what it was meant to do. That's not what it was supposed to go to. And so let's go to the pour, and we will talk about why my teardrop went so wonky and why it's still incredibly cool and completely fitting for April. So just for funsies, did you guys notice what the counter said behind me? That was how long ago I actually made that face video. And that was the design for April. And so Preppy Blue will be the base of this bar. And then I want to do a really cool teardrop inside using a bunch of colors. 2 of them, Metallica and Matte Gold. And let's make it pretty. How do we? And then also Key West Blue and Summer Bronze. And we will be using a scent from the Flaming Candle that I used combined with another scent for the Loki bar. So this was the Loki scent for the Thor and Loki bar. So I haven't used this all on its own at all, but I loved the smell of it when we got it. And so it is called the Olive Branch, and that's why we picked it for Loki, because he's always extending that damn thing, and he's such a trickster. Yeah. But here's the thing. I have never personally worked with this scent. It has never been used on its own, because for the Thoki bar, that was actually one of the Soapprentice's bars during the Marvel mashup. So I didn't make that guy. And she made that guy with layers and stuff, because that's a running rule. That's just a running rule across the board. And actually here in a couple of weeks, you're going to find out, you're going to call me a liar about this running rule, because my running rule is if you design it, you have to make it forever and ever and ever. Like, that's the thing. And that's the rule for me too. Unless it's like our stock standard, we always have these things in stock, then we all have to learn each other's designs and just be a part of it. But the over the years, I've had so many soap apprentices that have made these like crazy ass designs that I'm like, no, if you do that, whether it's a soap or a bath bomb or whatever, you have to make it forever. I will never try to reduplicate your stuff. Because, I did the one time for the Pisces bar. Remember that? And it didn't work out well. And again, in a couple weeks, you're going to call me a liar. Because I'm going to make the soap apprentice's design for something. And that's going to be weird. Now, for this, I'm giving you a whole lot of foreshadowing with all of this, talking about how I have never personally worked with this, and I have never worked with this scent individually. And I'm doing that because I already know what's going to happen. We are familiar with teardrop pours. We know that you need a reasonably thin batter to do a good teardrop pour. And so that's what I'm hoping for, right? A reasonably thin batter, because I got to make a teardrop. And as you can see, batter's good right now. There's no problems. There are none problems. It's a good fluidity for what it is that we need to do. It's not going to stay that way, though. And if you are dead set on getting a teardrop, well, that kind of sucks. I mean, it really does suck. Because it is actually very hard to manage a teardrop if your batter gets too thick. And this stuff didn't just get thick, it got really thick. And you can do with the colored portion that I have going on. Well, it's all a colored portion, actually. This is confusing. You know what? Let's go to the pour, and we will talk more about things that you can do to extend the fluidity. Okay, and on to the pour of this. And so far, so good. It's still a reasonably fluid batter. You can do a pretty decent teardrop in that, because you want the batter to move and not just fall all the way down. So to say that you need a really thin batter is not exactly truthful with a teardrop. You don't really need a super thin batter, like just an emulsion or just at a thin trace. Somewhere between thin and, medium are going to be the best. And unfortunately, this scent did accelerate the trace. Not a lot, but enough because I had already mixed it to such a point that it was going to be, problematic, that there wasn't really a whole lot I could do. And you see this first row, it's already coming out too thick. You do need a thinner batter than that. And also we have some kind of ricing going on in that too, which sucks. And so that's why I didn't even try to extend this fluidity, because I already had ricing. So I was like, well, screw it. I am not going to be able to get a teardrop out of this. Because the idea is with the teardrop, as you continue to pour, that blue would have actually expanded and the brown would be in the middle, and then the copper would extend the brown and the blue until the colors almost touch the sides, and then you would use the base color and zip it along the walls to push everything in, and then you create your teardrop. I've done a couple teardrops on the channel. Feel free to go check those out. But because this was already ricing and getting very thick very quickly, I already knew it was going to be a lost cause. But there are things that you can do to extend the fluidity of the portions that you're using for your teardrop, or for the rest of it to that if you really need to. But the fluidity of the batter that's in your base, less important at this stage than the fluidity of this. Now, you can put a little bit of sodium lactate into all of your little containers. And as far as how much, that really is dependent on how much soap you've already poured out. And so it's impossible for me to actually fully tell you that. Another way, depending on how much you've already super fatted it, right? If you're sticking at a low super fat, like between 3 and 5%, you can put a little bit of oil, like an oil that you used for the batch. So throw in a lightweight oil that was part of your batch. If you only have like an olive oil as your liquid oil in the batch, then use olive oil. That's fine. And stir it in, and it will make the batter, the soap batter, fluid enough to actually do this. Because the actual making of the teardrop, it's not a very long process, right? And so you will be able to do that. Your bar will be more super fatted, but not by much, not enough to really matter. I mean, how many times have we seen tutorials on the Soap Queen and, whatever, that have said, and questions are asked. How does this affect my super fat if I disperse my titanium dioxide in oil? Kind of doesn't. It's such a negligible difference that you're still sitting probably in the exact same percentage point. So if it hadn't started ricing, I would have put, maybe a quarter of an ounce of unsaponified oil into each of those colored sections for my teardrop itself in order to get it fluid enough to do the thing. And so I'm putting in, an ounce total into this batch size that already has 38 ounces in it. So it really wouldn't have changed the super fat much. I didn't do that because it was already getting so thick that it was a little bit too far gone. And that's another issue with all of this. Well, not an issue, but like a learning thing, because we like learning around here. It's okay that this isn't going to be a teardrop. Did I want a teardrop? Yeah, because my whole vision for this whole thing was I want it to look like a big O drop O rain, April showers, to then go into tomorrow's bar, May flowers, right? And it didn't work out. Like, I already know pouring this that it is not going to look like a teardrop at all. It is not going to look like a big giant raindrop in the gray Pacific Northwest sky. That is not what I'm going to be getting from this bar. But what I am getting from this bar are all of the colors represented that I wanted, the scent that I wanted, the formulation of the oils, therefore the performance of the actual soap, which is literally the thing that ultimately matters, right? That I wanted, just not quite the design. And that is completely fine. Like, the number of soap posts that I've seen on forums and stuff, when somebody posts a picture and it's like, oh my God, this is a huge fail. And it's like, well, why the hell is it a fail? It's still beautiful soap. Yeah, but I wanted it to be this. So, does the soap still work? Is it still soap? And is there some, visually appealing design? Even if it's not the visually appealing design that you had in mind, is there still something there that you can be happy about? Because the number of the posts that I've seen wherein people say, oh no, soap fail. I wanted to do this. It ended up doing this. Should I rebatch? No, the soap itself is fine. You're mad at the design. Rebatching isn't going to fix that. Rebatching is going to turn that entire, bar and batch of soap gray or brown or not these pretty colors that you have going on here. So maybe your swirl didn't work. Maybe your teardrop didn't work. As long as the soap is still, properly balanced and is a good recipe, it's good. It's soap. Just get creative with the naming of it or the, whatever. I built my first geode line actually in my business several years ago, trying to do teardrops and everything coming out looking like geodes, like we had just smashed a rock into, and it was the inside of said rocks. And my first geode line was born, and it totally freaking worked. It went down like gangbusters. Everybody loved those soaps. So let's go check out this cut and see what we have here. Okay, and on to the cut of this guy. Now, this did get C-popped and gelled because I wanted all of these colors to be bold and beautiful and awesome, because reasons. And let's see what we have going on inside. And the point with all of this is, and I've said it a million times, don't sweat the small stuff. And soap is almost always small stuff. There are so many other things going on in your life, bigger, more important things. Come on, that's still freaking cool. All right? That is amazing. Is it a teardrop? No. Is it cool? Yes. Yes, it is. All of the colors are represented. You have all of the different lines. It completely works. The ultimate design with the color and everything that I wanted, it's there. Does it look like a teardrop? No. Mr. Soap and Clay came out when I was asking him for help with the December bar, and he was like, well, that one's my favorite because it looks like Rolling Stone lips. And I went, oh, cool. Well, that's something. You know, I don't know what the hell that has to do with April, but does it matter? That is still a very cool bar of soap. No, it's not a teardrop. But also, it's big. It's not like the little witch hats that the Soapprentice was very disappointed in, and I ultimately thought was cute. And so we also worked with that as well, because her first teardrop looked like a bird. Her first teardrops were, she thought she had done it. It was amazing. And honestly, I think if she had used more color inside her actual, teardrop itself, had poured off more color to use, it would have worked. But she didn't use enough color for the actual teardrop, which meant they all ended up looking like little witches' hats, which were also very cute. And so we renamed the line, and it worked. For this, it's April regardless of what the actual design is. And like, some of them look like birds and some of them look like Rolling Stone mouths, and none of them are quite the beautiful teardrop thing that I had in mind, but that's okay. It's still beautiful soap. It smells delightful. It is going to have a great, big, beautiful lather. It is not going to dry out anyone's skin. It is going to be loved by all, make people smile. And so for that reason, this was not a fail. And it would be great if you guys could, as we're nearing the end of the year, focus on for your 2022 goals, not beating yourself up so much when you do something that you think is wrong, or a bar or a pour didn't go the way that you thought it should. Because at the end of the day, you still have art, you still have usable art. It's still beautiful, and you should be proud of the work that you did. And that is day 157, the April Stone soap. And there it is, the April soap. And yeah, no, I love it. It's a babe. It's not a teardrop, but it's a babe. So it's okay. That's one of the cool things about soap. At the end of the day, if your design did not go really according to plan, nobody really actually has to know. And that still is very cool. And it has the kind of gray sky around it, like April showers, right? Which will pair nicely with tomorrow's bar, hopefully. And the colors inside of what was supposed to be the teardrop and ended up being Rolling Stone lips are gorgeous. They are so bright and stunning and amazing. It's just a win across the board. Absolutely. And so I'm very excited for this. The scent blends with it so perfectly as well with the design. And so far we have 4 really epic scents that are really kind of spanning the scent profile of what I want each of the months to sort of represent. So it's working. Absolutely. If you are interested in any of these soaps, you should definitely actually subscribe, because some of these gift sets will be given away during the 10 days of thanks. And that shit's coming up real quick. Too quick. So yeah, subscribe. For those of you who are subscribed, hey, Sudzer, thanks for being subscribed. I'll tell you right now, because the other people, they already bounced off the video that aren't subscribed. Make sure that you're actually signed up for my newsletter, because that's how I drop all the information about 10 days of thanks every day. For those of you who are new, I'll give more information, when we get closer to 10 days of thanks. But little plug for right now. Thank you so much for joining me for another round of 365 days of soap. I'm out of here for today, but I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of soapy fun. Bye.